The devil wants to destroy a person's destiny. He doesn't always appear with horns and fire. He sends someone, a person, a voice, a hand that pretends to help you but drags you into destruction. And if you don't learn to discern the signs, if you don't open your eyes with spiritual clarity, you will welcome them with a smile and end up with scars on your soul. Some people are not a blessing. Some people are an assignment from darkness. God, in His infinite mercy, warns those who are awake. He whispers in your spirit when something feels off. He gives you that discomfort in your gut when a devil wrapped in flesh enters your life. But too many ignore the warning signs. Too many are asleep while the enemy walks through their door. Let me speak this clearly. Not everyone who walks into your life is sent by God. And if a person does certain things, speaks certain ways, lives with certain patterns, they are not confused. They are not misguided. They are sent by evil, sent to cause confusion, to plant division, to drag your spirit into places God never wanted you to go. And what are the signs? Let me open your eyes. If a person always pulls you away from what is right, if they downplay your values, make light of your faith, and twist righteousness into weakness, they are not harmless. They are dangerous. They were sent. When someone enters your life and suddenly prayer becomes a burden, spiritual focus begins to fade and your peace feels like it's under attack, that's not a coincidence. That's a spiritual infiltration. Evil rarely attacks through chaos. It attacks through influence. Look closely. Does this person fuel your discipline or destroy it? Do they pull you closer to God or make you doubt what you once held sacred? Do they bring peace or do they carry confusion like a cloud over your life? The enemy doesn't always roar sometimes. He whispers through someone's words. And sometimes those whispers are so subtle, you don't even notice the poison until your spirit is sick. There are people who enter your life with one mission: to dim your light, to distract you from your purpose, to confuse your path. And they will not come with fangs. They will come with smiles. The most dangerous weapon of the enemy is not fear, it is deception. And deception often wears the face of a friend. There is a difference between someone who is struggling and someone who is serving darkness. Don't be fooled. When a person's pattern is to always lead you away from truth, to normalize what is evil, to encourage disobedience, to twist what is sacred, they are not struggling. They are an agent. Whether they know it or not, they are being used. And if you are spiritually asleep, you will think they are just lost, but in reality, they are leading you to become lost too. God never allows confusion to reign in the life of a person who walks with Him. So if confusion is increasing and clarity is disappearing, you must ask, who did I allow into my life? Who am I listening to? Who am I trusting with my soul? Let me be bold. If a person is comfortable lying, manipulating, and destroying others without guilt, they are not just broken. They are being powered by something dark. If their presence always creates division, if their words are soaked in bitterness, if they thrive on gossip and sowing strife, they are walking with evil, and evil is walking through them. And you, chosen one, must be alert. You must stop justifying evil out of love. You must stop calling it kindness when you let wickedness thrive near you. God did not give you discernment so you could ignore it in the name of being nice. Being spiritual does not mean being blind. The enemy is counting on your silence. He's counting on your passiveness. But it's time to rise with holy boldness. If a person ridicules your discipline, mocks your boundaries, and manipulates your compassion to keep you bound to their drama, they were not sent by God. They are a test, a spiritual storm wrapped in human form. And if you don't wake up, you'll think you're being loyal, but you're really being led into destruction. The devil will never knock on your door and introduce himself. He'll send someone who talks just like you, thinks like you, mirrors your weaknesses, and gains your trust. Then slowly they will make you question what is right. They will make you compromise your standards, and they'll celebrate it, calling it freedom. But it's not freedom, it's bondage disguised as liberty. And by the time you realize it, your strength will be gone and your purpose delayed. This is not the time to be passive with your spirit. If someone always brings you temptation, always promotes confusion, always tears others down while appearing spiritual, they are not a mistake. They are a message from the enemy. And if you don't recognize it, you will pay the price. God protects those who are watchful. He empowers those who are discerning. But you must be willing to see what you don't want to see. Stop making excuses for darkness. Stop calling evil just personality. Stop tolerating what God calls detestable. Some people are walking invitations to sin. They are spiritual distractions. Their presence doesn't bring clarity, it brings chaos. Their energy doesn't lift, it drains. Their influence doesn't build, it corrupts. And if you keep them close, they will suck the holiness out of your life like a leech on your spirit. Let me make this very plain. If a person makes you numb to sin, if they convince you that your convictions are too extreme, if they laugh at what God says is sacred, they are sent to weaken your guard, sent to normalize disobedience, sent to hollow your soul from the inside out. There are people who speak death while pretending to love. Their words are sharp, their motives are hidden, and their presence is poisonous. And if you keep drinking from that cup, don't be surprised when your spirit starts dying. You were never meant to stay connected to people who walk with darkness. God didn't call you to suffer under spiritual oppression. He didn't call you to remain loyal to what is draining you. He called you to walk in truth, to walk in power, to walk in purity. And when someone blocks that walk, you must decide your soul or their approval. You cannot keep both. A person sent by the enemy will always have a pattern. Patterns of seduction, patterns of distraction, patterns of corruption. And it always starts slow through conversation, through comfort, through charm. But the end goal is always destruction. Wake up. The enemy doesn't fear your prayers if your relationships are corrupt. He doesn't fear your worship if your loyalty is to people sent to ruin you. The battle is not just in your mind, it's in your connections. You can't stay pure while walking with people who delight in sin. You can't walk in the light while holding hands with darkness. Some of you are praying for peace while entertaining chaos. You're praying for strength while listening to voices that drain it. And God is not the author of confusion. So why are you letting confusion remain? If someone in your life always brings you further from discipline, always justifies sin, always questions righteousness, don't call them a friend. Call them what they are, a weapon formed against you. And no weapon formed against you shall prosper, but only if you rise, speak, and walk away. God has given you everything you need to be free. But freedom requires courage. You must be willing to lose fake friends to gain your soul. You must be willing to walk alone so you can walk with God. The enemy will always use relationships to ruin revelation. He will always plant people to distract prophets. He will always disguise destruction as companionship. You are not called to rescue people who are assigned to ruin you. You are not an emotional hospital for those who are spiritually dangerous. Love them from afar. Pray for them from a distance. But do not open the door to evil in the name of loyalty. If someone brings out the worst in you consistently, if they celebrate your weaknesses and mock your growth, if they push you towards selfishness, pride, lust, or rebellion, they are being used. And God is not silent about it. He will show you through dreams, through restlessness, through repeated patterns. But you must not silence His voice with your excuses. A person sent by the devil will always have one purpose: to steal your peace, kill your progress, and destroy your spiritual destiny. Do not argue with it. Do not bargain with it. Remove it. Let your heart return to truth. Let your spirit become sensitive again. Let your soul be guarded by righteousness. And when a person walks into your life, measure them not by how they make you feel, but by what they awaken in your soul. If they ignite your ego, feed your rebellion, or encourage your laziness, they are a threat to your destiny. God protects those who protect what is sacred. You cannot beg for peace while holding hands with confusion. You cannot pray for purpose while cuddling with destruction. Be bold, be discerning, be ruthless with what tries to ruin your soul. And so I say this again with even greater fire in my soul. Wake up, you who sleep under the weight of deception. The path of God is narrow, and few truly walk it. Why? Because the road is often blocked, not by boulders, not by barriers, but by people. People who carry the language of light but move with the spirit of darkness. They know the words, they speak as if they are for you, but inside them dwells corruption, pride, and rebellion against the will of God. And if you are not aligned with truth, you will confuse charisma for character. You will mistake flattery for favor. You will allow the serpent to sit at your table because he came wearing perfume and a kind smile. And what happens when you allow such people to linger? Your discernment dies, your fire for righteousness dims, you stop praying, you stop striving. You stop listening to the whisper of God because their voice becomes louder. Their opinion becomes your compass. Their influence becomes your idol. You were once bold, now you're passive. You were once convicted, now you compromise. And the enemy sits back and smiles because you didn't fall through disaster, you fell through influence. Some of you are fighting battles in your life that didn't begin with your own choices. They began when you opened the door to someone who carried darkness. Look back. Track the moment the confusion entered. Track the moment your joy began to fade. You'll see it wasn't an accident, it was a connection. And the longer you ignore that truth, the longer you remain stuck in cycles that God never intended for you. God will never align you with someone who delights in disobedience. God will never call you to remain bound to someone who mocks discipline. And yet, how many stay loyal to what is draining them in the name of love? That is not love. That is deception. Love never leads you away from God. Love never pushes you to sin. Love never demands your silence while it violates your spirit. If someone forces you to betray your conscience, they are not sent to help you. They are sent to destroy you from within. Listen closely. If a person only shows up in your life when you are weak, vulnerable, or lonely, they are not there by accident. The enemy is strategic. He studies your emotional patterns. He watches your disappointments. He times the appearance of people with precision. And if you are not rooted in truth, you will mistake a demonic distraction for divine timing. Guard your soul. Guard your mind. Guard your peace. Guard your spirit the way a soldier guards a city under siege. This is not a time to entertain emotional weakness. The battle is not just for your comfort, it's for your calling. And the devil doesn't need to kill you to win. He only needs to detour you long enough that you miss the season God prepared for your breakthrough. If someone repeatedly invites you into sin, if they seduce your discipline, if they plant seeds of doubt toward what is right, they are not confused, they are carriers of destruction. Do not water what God commanded you to uproot. Do not feed what God called you to starve, and do not comfort what God asked you to confront. Too many people are praying for clarity, but avoiding separation. You cannot hear from God while sitting at the table of chaos. You cannot move forward while clinging to what is toxic. God will not speak loudly when you're allowing whispers of corruption to echo in your soul. If you truly want to walk in light, you must first shut every door that lets darkness walk in unchallenged. There are some people in your life who are not sent to love you, they are sent to test you, to see if you truly trust God enough to say no, to see if your loyalty lies in comfort or in conviction. God is watching. Will you choose silence over righteousness? Will you choose peace with man over peace with God? These are the crossroads of destiny, the choices that define your direction. Do not cry over who left when God was cleansing your atmosphere. Some departures are answers to prayers you didn't even know you prayed. Some rejections are divine protection. When the hand of God removes someone from your life, do not chase after what he expelled. It is better to walk alone in truth than be surrounded by people who poison your soul in silence. If someone manipulates you to compromise your values, to sacrifice your integrity, to betray your principles, they are not just toxic, they are spiritually dangerous. God calls you to be alert, to be sharp, to be holy in your decisions. You must discern not by charm, not by emotion, but by alignment. Does this person align with what God has called me to become? Or are they a hidden wedge between me and my spiritual progress? Even your inner circle must be holy. Even your companions must reflect reverence. Why? Because whoever you walk with, you become like. You mirror the habits of those closest to you. So if someone curses with their words, slanders with their tongue, deceives with their actions, and you remain close to them, you will eventually reflect what you tolerate. Let me say this without apology. Holiness is not optional if you desire the favor of God. And the company you keep is either sharpening your holiness or silencing it. Every conversation, every environment, every connection is either an altar or a trap, either a place where your spirit is strengthened or a battlefield where it's being drained. This is why the enemy is obsessed with relationships, because he knows if he can corrupt your circle, he can cripple your calling. He doesn't have to stop you with tragedy, only needs to surround you with people who applaud your compromise. Some people were not sent by God, they were allowed by Him to test you. Will you recognize what is sent from darkness in disguise? Or will you keep entertaining spirits that speak well, but act wickedly? The devil never sends the obvious. He sends the counterfeit, the almost, the appealing, the convenient, and you must test every spirit by the fruits it produces. Does this person lead me to more discipline or more chaos? Do they call me to rise or pull me to sink? Do they fear God or mock Him with casual disregard? These are the questions that discern destiny. And if you fail to ask them, you will pay with time, peace, and purpose. God calls His people to separation, not isolation, but separation from what defiles the spirit. You can love people and still keep them at a distance. You can pray for someone and still protect your soul from their influence. Let your compassion never become the chain that keeps you bound to what God told you to flee. The devil is not interested in stealing your money. He wants your mind, your integrity, your awareness, and he uses people to do it, people who are reckless with their influence. People who celebrate rebellion, people who normalize sin, and if you keep close what God told you to cut, your spirit will become desensitized until you no longer even realize you've drifted far from the path of truth. It doesn't take a storm to ruin a house, it only takes a small leak ignored too long. That is what a wrong person can do to your life. They may seem small, seem harmless, but their presence weakens your walls. Their words sow confusion. Their attitude shifts your direction. And before you know it, the entire structure of your spiritual life is compromised. So hear me now. God has given you the wisdom to recognize, the power to walk away, the authority to guard your space. But He will not force you to do it. You must choose. Choose to listen. Choose to see. Choose to obey that inner warning, because what you tolerate today will dominate you tomorrow. You cannot carry your calling and carry connections that sabotage it. You cannot ask God to increase you while surrounding yourself with those who decrease your fire. If a person makes you feel guilty for choosing discipline, they are not a friend, they are an agent. If a person tempts you to betray what is sacred, they are not harmless, they are dangerous. Do not confuse emotional attachment with spiritual assignment. Some of you are spiritually stuck because you are emotionally loyal to someone God already exposed. You saw the signs, you heard the whispers, you felt the unrest, but you stayed. And now you wonder why your progress is delayed. Let me say this with clarity. God will not bless what He is trying to remove. He will not anoint your compromise. He will not strengthen what you're using to weaken your own soul. If you want His power, you must align with His order. So many hearts cry out for freedom, while their hands remain entangled in what God already declared unclean. They ask for light, but refuse to walk out of the shadows. They weep for peace, but defend the very voices that destroy it. And God, in His mercy, waits not with anger, but with expectation. He has given signs, He has given warnings, but He will not drag a soul into deliverance that clings to its own chains. There is a deception that has crept into the hearts of many. The idea that as long as someone means well, their influence is safe. But intent is not the measure. Spirit is. A person may speak kindly, act friendly, and still carry the very poison that will numb your soul to the truth. And God is not mocked by appearances. He searches the heart. He sees what the eyes cannot. That is why He gives discernment, not to judge harshly, but to protect deeply. You cannot walk in alignment with God and allow spiritual sabotage to sit at your table. You cannot expect to soar on wings of truth while dragging dead weight behind you. Some people are not neutral. They are strategic weapons against your peace, your purpose, and your clarity. And the more you justify their presence, the more you resist the divine pruning that brings fruit. God is a God of order. Where His presence abides, chaos cannot. So when you find your mind spinning, your focus broken, your convictions dulled, you must ask, who have I allowed too close? What voice did I elevate above the whisper of God? Whose opinion have I placed on the throne where only God belongs? Spiritual warfare does not always look like thunder and lightning. Sometimes it looks like conversations that shift your priorities, like laughter that desensitizes your spirit, like affection that binds you to disorder. The most subtle weapons are the most deadly because they make you doubt whether war is even happening. But make no mistake, every soul aligned with God is in battle. And the enemy's greatest tactic is infiltration, not intimidation. Some of you are weary not because life is too heavy, but because you are carrying people God never assigned to you. You've tied your peace to their chaos. You've traded your clarity for their confusion. And the longer you allow their influence to remain, the more you become a version of yourself God never authored. God calls His people to be cleansed, not just in behavior, but in environment. Not just in action, but in atmosphere. Purity is not just about what you do, it's about what you permit, what you entertain, what you allow to shape your thoughts, your habits, and your expectations. Do not be deceived. Repeated exposure to darkness will desensitize your spirit. You cannot play with poison and expect to remain whole. The people who constantly justify evil, who blur the lines between righteousness and rebellion, are not harmless. They are spiritual hazards. And if you ignore the signal in your soul, the warning in your gut, you are choosing destruction with your eyes wide open. There is a cost to purity. There is a cost to truth. It is the loss of popularity. It is the sting of separation. But what you lose in people, you gain in power. What you release in comfort, you gain in clarity. God does not ask you to be liked, He asks you to be loyal. And that loyalty must be stronger than any bond, stronger than any friendship, stronger than any relationship that demands compromise. Many have fallen not because they lacked faith, but because they lacked courage to walk away. They clung to what felt familiar, even when it violated their spirit. They allowed history to override holiness. And in doing so, they gave access to darkness under the illusion of kindness. If someone continually chips away at your boundaries, mocks your growth, disturbs your peace, or celebrates your weakness, they are not confused. They are sent. And your silence is not spiritual maturity, it's surrender. God has given you a voice, a warning, a standard. Use it. Some people are spiritual termitesmal, quiet but relentless in their damage. They enter unnoticed. They move softly. But over time, they weaken the entire structure of your faith. You must not wait until your walls collapse. Act while the signs are still subtle. Respond while your spirit still burns with clarity. This is not a call to judge others with arrogance. It is a call to protect what is sacred. It is a call to value your soul more than your circle, to value your future more than your feelings, to choose God's approval over human acceptance. There will be times when the right decision feels like rejection, but that is only the flesh resisting what the Spirit knows to be truth. And make no mistake, God will test your loyalty. He will allow you to be tempted by counterfeit connections to see if you will cling to him or bow to the pressure of compromise. The test is not always about them, it's about you, about your alignment, your priorities, your hunger for holiness. Let this truth cut through the fog. If a person regularly invites chaos into your mind, pushes you toward rebellion, or mocks what is holy, they are not sent to build, they are sent to break. And your silence in the face of that influence is not compassion, it is spiritual negligence. You were not created to live half awake, half aware, half submitted. God calls you to full awareness, full alignment, full devotion. And that means fully protecting the gates of your life, what you hear, what you see, who you trust. Stop apologizing for guarding your peace. Stop shrinking your boundaries to accommodate dysfunction. Stop silencing your spirit for the sake of emotional comfort. This is not cruelty, it is wisdom. It is the preservation of what is holy within you. Some people are beautiful on the outside, but rotten at the root. And if you eat from their fruit long enough, your own branches will wither. God is not calling you to be harsh, he's calling you to be holy. And holiness requires separation. It is not enough to identify evil, you must resist it. It is not enough to dislike sin, you must distance yourself from it. The devil is not impressed by your disapproval if you continue to allow his agents access to your time, your mind, and your heart. There is a roar rising from within, the faithful, a roar of clarity, a roar of power, a roar of spiritual vision that no longer tolerates what once felt tolerable. This is the call to rise, to sever ties with darkness, to walk boldly in the light of God's wisdom, to silence the voices that distort truth, and to reclaim the territory of your soul that was once surrendered in ignorance. You have been warned, not out of fear, but out of love. God does not expose danger to shame you. He does it to save you. He does not highlight deception to condemn you. He does it to cleanse you. But the choice is always yours. And now I speak not only to warn you, but to awaken something deep within you, a divine fire that has slept too long under the weight of toxic influence and counterfeit connections. You were not created to survive under manipulation. You were not shaped by God to walk quietly among those who walk boldly in rebellion. You were made to rise with strength, to walk in holy discernment, and to guard the treasure that is your soul with unwavering vigilance. God placed within you a moral compass, a spiritual sensitivity that rings loudly when evil approaches, yet so often that sound is muted by emotion, by history, by attachment. But listen, loyalty to people must never exceed loyalty to the truth. There comes a point when you must choose protect your peace or protect your pride. Stay bound to who you've outgrown, or step forward into who God has called you to become. If a person celebrates your failure, they are not a friend. If they comfort you when you drift from your path but grow distant when you seek righteousness, they are not confused. They are aligned with darkness. And darkness does not always scream. It whispers, it flatters, it tells you what you want to hear while pulling you far from what your soul needs to know. You must understand when God is preparing to elevate you, he will expose who cannot go with you. He will shine light on every false motive. He will make you feel the spiritual dissonance in the presence of people who wear masks. And your job is not to argue with the exposure, it is to respond to it. Too many delay their destiny because they want closure when God has already shown the truth. Let go. Let them go. Let the weight fall so you can rise again. Not everyone who walks with you has a heart for truth. Not everyone who praises you has a spirit of peace. Some have been sent as distractions dressed in loyalty, as diversions wrapped in affection. And if you do not confront their purpose, you will become a casualty of your own silence. God never asks you to walk in confusion. He never calls you to stay where your spirit cannot breathe. If every time you meet a person, your thoughts become scattered, your focus dissolves, your priorities shift away from truth, that is not a coincidence. That is contamination. And spiritual contamination must be cleansed with separation. Let me speak to your spirit. Plainly, some people are spiritually contagious. Their attitudes, their language, their desires infect your soul until you begin to think like them, speak like them, and settle like them. But you were not created to settle. You were created to rise, to walk with purpose, to carry a spirit that disrupts wickedness, not one that entertains it. A person sent by the enemy will always downplay discipline. They'll call it too much. They'll say you're being extra, too serious, too intense. But what they truly fear is your clarity, because your clarity convicts their compromise. Your presence challenges the parts of them they refuse to surrender. And rather than change, they'll try to make you shrink. Don't shrink. Don't apologize for choosing order. Don't dim your light to keep someone comfortable in the dark. God never gave you strength so you could pretend to be weak around the wrong people. He gave you strength so you could set the standard, so you could shift atmospheres, so you could raise the spiritual temperature wherever you walk. Understand this. You are not called to fix what was never your assignment. Some of you are drained because you're carrying people God never told you to lift. You confuse compassion with calling. But compassion without wisdom leads to destruction. You cannot help someone who consistently pulls you out of alignment. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away with your peace intact. God honors those who walk in truth, even when it hurts, even when it's lonely, even when it costs you relationships you never imagined losing. The price of obedience is real, but so is the reward. And the reward is freedom from manipulation, freedom from guilt, freedom from cycles that keep you small when God has called you to expand. There are spirits that attach themselves to people not to love you, but to monitor you, to distract you, to keep you just close enough to stagnation. And they will smile. They will serve. They will appear helpful. But beneath the surface, they are strategic obstacles. Your success intimidates them. Your purity exposes them. Your calling threatens them. And so they act subtly, persistently, until your vision becomes cloudy and your steps uncertain. But God does not abandon those who seek Him. If your heart desires purity, He will give you wisdom. If your spirit longs for clarity, He will open your eyes. But you must be ready to obey what He shows you. The danger is not in blindness, it is in seeing the truth and refusing to act. You cannot walk in spiritual authority and simultaneously submit to spiritual confusion. You cannot claim freedom while holding hands with those who chain you in the spirit. You must choose this day whom you will guard, their comfort or your calling. Let your life be proof that darkness cannot stay where light refuses to compromise. Let your decisions echo through the heavens, that you will not bow to pressure, that you will not submit to emotional traps, that you will not forsake your soul for temporary companionship. God wants to fill your life with clarity, with purity, with divine connection, but He will not do it while you protect what He is trying to remove. He will not send power where there is disobedience. He will not send truth where there is tolerance of lies. When God sets you apart, He does not ask for your convenience. He demands your allegiance. And that allegiance must stretch deeper than words, deeper than ritual, deeper than culture. It must reach into the marrow of your decisions, into the sacred spaces of your relationships, into the quiet agreements you've made with people who do not walk in the light of discipline. This is the refining fire, where the real warriors of faith are forged, not in comfort, but in conflict. Not in applause, but in separation. And this is why those sent by the enemy often arrive looking familiar. They do not come with flames, they come with flattery. They come with shared pain, with common language, with just enough truth to lower your guard. But remember, the enemy doesn't have to convince you to walk away from God. He only needs to convince you to compromise slowly, inch by inch, thought by thought, until the voice of God is drowned out by the voice of your comfort. God's voice does not always confirm what you want. To hear it reveals what you need to change. It shines its light into corners you've protected. It calls out attachments you've excused. And yes, it will hurt. Truth always does. But that pain is not punishment, it is purification. It is the sound of your soul breaking free from chains you mistook as jewelry. You must develop the strength to disconnect with honor, to bless those who leave but not chase after what God has removed. Every separation ordained by God is a setup for sanctification. It is God clearing your soil so that His seeds can flourish. But too many replant weeds out of loneliness. Too many revive what was divinely buried, and then they wonder why their fruit tastes bitter. There are people who are sent not just to delay you, but to define you wrongly. They will speak over you things that do not come from God. They will try to label you, mold you, shame you into becoming palatable to their dysfunction. But hear this, what God has spoken over you cannot be undone by the words of the broken. You are not what they called you. You are not the failure they predicted. You are not the weakness they exploited. You are a vessel, chosen and guarded by the hand of the Almighty. And vessels of God cannot be filled with what contradicts His presence. Your spirit was never designed to carry manipulation, bitterness, or the agenda of those who masquerade as helpers but were sent to hinder. God did not pour Himself into you so that you could be emptied by people who feed off your strength. Guard your calling. Protect your inner life. Do not allow your emotions to become the entry point of spiritual sabotage. Just because someone is persistent doesn't mean they are purposeful. Just because someone is wounded doesn't mean they're safe. And just because someone is familiar doesn't mean they are meant for your future. There is a heaviness that comes from yoking yourself with the wrong person, a spiritual fatigue that no sleep can fix, a confusion that no therapist can untangle. Why? Because the issue is not external, it is spiritual. When your soul is out of alignment with God, every part of your life begins to misfire. And many are diagnosing anxiety when what they truly have is spiritual contamination. God is not calling you to figure everyone out. He is calling you to obey when He says, "This one is not from me." You don't need a reason to walk away from confusion. You don't need confirmation from people who don't carry your burden. When God gives you peace in walking away, that peace is your compass. Do not allow guilt to make you tolerate what your spirit knows is wrong. The enemy will use guilt as a leash. He will use pity as a weapon. He will use your empathy against you. But you must love without losing yourself. You must care without compromising. You must be kind without being conquered. Some of you have been asking God for elevation, for greater clarity, for supernatural power, but you are still entertaining the presence of those who reject the very God you serve. That contradiction will always cancel your momentum. You cannot bring unclean alliances into a holy future. You cannot inherit what God has for you while holding on to those sent to sabotage it. It is time to discern with fire, to look not only at actions but patterns, to weigh not only words but spiritual atmosphere. Ask yourself, when I'm with this person, is my discipline stronger? Is my mind clearer? Is my purpose louder? If the answer is no, then you already have your answer. The Spirit of God does not dwell in confusion. He does not operate in contradiction. He does not partner with disorder. You must be unapologetic about protecting your divine rhythm, about preserving the oil God has poured over your life. There are people who will try to drain it in the name of friendship, in the name of familiarity, even in the name of love. But true love honors boundaries. True love uplifts your discipline. True love never weaponizes closeness against your clarity. Let me go deeper. There are people who only love you when you are weak, because your weakness makes them feel strong. The moment you begin to grow, to speak truth, to pursue purity, they will begin to criticize you. They will call your growth pride. They will label your boldness as arrogance. But what they're really afraid of is your freedom, because your freedom reminds them of their chains. You must not shrink to keep others comfortable in their cages. Your light will expose darkness. Your discipline will confront laziness. Your hunger for truth will convict those who've settled for survival. That is your assignment, not to entertain, but to elevate, not to blend, but to bless, not to conform, but to carry the divine standard in every environment you enter. This is what happens when a person is truly aligned with God. They disturb comfort zones. They provoke reflection. They stir sleeping souls. And yes, it comes with rejection. It comes with separation. But it also comes with the presence of God, with the peace of knowing you did not betray your calling for convenience. You may feel lonely at times. You may feel misunderstood. But don't confuse isolation with punishment. Sometimes God hides you so he can purify you. He isolates you so he can insulate you. He strips you of false companionship so that he can introduce you to his real covering. And when the time is right, he will surround you with those who honor your spirit, who love you without pulling you away from truth, who sharpen your discipline and speak life into your soul. But you must clear the space first. You must be willing to let go of the counterfeit before he releases the authentic. If a person brings chaos to your purpose, if they make your spiritual progress feel like a burden, if they subtly ridicule what God has made sacred in your life, they are not sent by heaven. They are sent to delay what God has ordained. Do not delay your obedience in exchange for their approval. Their comfort is not worth your calling. Rise now, in thought, in spirit, in authority. Let your steps be firm. Let your eyes be open. Let your heart be steady. You are not here to please the world. You are not here to entertain dysfunction. You are here to fulfill the command of God over your life. And anyone who threatens that must be dealt with, not with hatred, not with arrogance, but with decisive spiritual clarity. Let the fire in your soul burn with boldness. Let your discernment speak louder than your emotions. Let the voice of God outweigh every attachment. You are a vessel of purpose, a temple of light, a guardian of truth. And no agent of darkness, no matter how charming, familiar, or convincing, has a right to desecrate what God has declared holy. And now, let this be etched deep within your heart. You were not created to carry the weight of people who war against your purpose. You were not called to accommodate what God has called you to cast out. If a person's presence dilutes your discipline, diminishes your peace, and distorts your path, they are not your assignment, they are your attack. Walk boldly now, not in pride, but in holy conviction. Let every step you take reflect obedience to the voice of God. Do not fear separation. Do not mourn the loss of what God has exposed. The cutting away is not cruelty, it is cleansing. The distance is not rejection, it is divine redirection. You are rising into a season that demands a different level of awareness, a higher standard of connection, and a deeper reverence for what is sacred. Guard your atmosphere. Watch your associations. Protect your mind. And above all, remain steadfast in God's truth. Because in the end, it is not the loud enemies that destroy destined assets, the silent agents sent by darkness wearing the disguise of love. But now you see, now you know, and now by the power of God's wisdom, you are ready to walk free, walk firm, and walk filled with the fire of purpose. Let nothing unholy find shelter in your spirit. Let no voice rise above the whisper of God, and let no person stay who threatens the purity of your path. Stand tall, chosen soul. You have been warned, you have been prepared,